Marion Suge Knight is an infamous name in hip-hop, whether it was from his Death Row days, his beef with Eazy-E, or him being involved in the infamous killing of Tupac. It always seemed like that trouble followed him no matter where he went, even after his Death Row days. From getting knocked out by Akon's manager in 2009 because he was allegedly begging for money, to most recently in 2018 being convicted of voluntary manslaughter and being sentenced to 28 years for killing somebody at the age of 56. It may be safe to say that Suge will spend his later days in prison until he take his last breath. And to a lot of people that he did wrong in the past, they could sleep better at nights knowing that. Some of these people may have been victims of Suge's violence, using his gang ties to forge contracts, some Eazy-E fans thinking that Suge had something to do with his death, and last but not least, of course, the Tupac fans. Suge Knight would help co-found Death Row Records in 1991 alongside Dr. Dre and Harry O, being responsible for putting West Coast on the map and making rap mainstream, especially with projects like Dr. Dre's The Chronic and Doggy Style by Snoop Dogg. In late 1995, Death Row Records would sign Tupac after he served 10 months in prison. With him immediately as soon as he got out, he worked on his next project called All Eyes on Me, which would end up being one of the highest selling albums in 1996, and Death Row overall looked at unstoppable. But on September 7th, 1996 in Las Vegas, after a Mike Tyson and Bruce Sheldon fight, Tupac and Suge Knight were involved in an altercation, where allegedly the fight was due to retaliation of some guys stealing some Death Row chains from Suge's affiliates, and Tupac wanted to show that he was down and loyal to Suge, so he took things into his hands, and as soon as he saw him, the fight broke out, where the dude that they was allegedly beating up was a Crip named Orlando Anderson. This guy wasn't an ordinary gang member or a stranger to the law. In fact, prior to this interaction that he had with Tupac, he was a key suspect in 2 other murders, so this guy definitely got busy in the streets, and he wasn't nobody to be played with, not even Tupac, cause as soon as the fight got broken up, they was out looking for retaliation, while Tupac and Suge were planning on celebrating the night by going to the club 662, and on the way there, little did Tupac know these would be the last moments that he would be conscious, cause 12 shots would ring out in a BMW that Suge and Pac were in, with Shakur getting hit up to 4 times and Suge only grazed in the head by a bullet. Tupac was rushed to emergency surgery at the Universal Medical Center, where he would be in a coma for 6 days, fighting for his life, but unfortunately he would pass away at the age of 25. With Suge surviving and being a key witness to the murder, many fans thought that this would be an open and shut case since he survived the attack. But he would reveal in a TV interview that if he knew who killed Tupac, he would not tell the police, which obviously rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way and started to give him the side eye.
If you knew who killed Tupac, would you tell the police?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because it's not my job. I don't get paid to solve homicides.
And not only that, because of that fight he was in involving Tupac and Orlando Anderson, it violated his probation and he was looking at prison time. So he paid off Orlando Anderson to testify in court on his behalf, but he still ended up getting charged. Even though Orlando Anderson, he would end up getting $10,000 from him.
After Tupac dies, Suge faces probation violation for the beating of Orlando Anderson. And in your book, you said that Suge Knight actually paid Orlando Anderson to defend him, to say Suge never beated him, that he was just trying to stop the fight.
Yeah, that was it's a situation that really was created by the attorneys involved, Suge's attorneys and Orlando's attorney, and they got together and figured out a way for it to be in everybody's mutual interest.
Now, as I'm explaining this and you're putting 2 and 2 together, basically Suge Knight, he paid off a dude who killed Tupac, which is kinda weird, cause people that was close with both Pac and Suge said that they had a strong big brother and little brother bond, and they were inseparable together. So it's kinda eerie at the fact that Suge had to pay this dude, and I get the circumstances that he was in, cause I wouldn't wanna be serving time in prison either, but you gotta think, Tupac was a main cash cow on Death Row, and was arguably one of the biggest musicians in the world. So to have that taken from you by some gang member, that would rub a lot of people the wrong way, and to a lot of fans that found this out, it rubbed them the wrong way too. Leading up to Tupac's death, there were a lot of theories that he wanted to leave Death Row and started his own record label, hence why after Tupac got out of jail, he was making so much music in a short amount of time, and many fans believe that this is the reason why Suge wanted to kill Pac. But there are some flaws in this theory right here, cause according to one of Tupac's closest affiliates, he does say that Tupac was gonna start his own record label, but it was gonna be a joint venture to Death Row, meaning that it was still gonna be Death Row partly owned. And he said countless times that Suge and Pac had so much love for each other, even if Tupac was gonna leave Death Row, Suge would have been happy for him, and more than likely that probably wasn't gonna happen so soon as much as people think it was.
You know, after he passed away, there was a lot of rumors about him wanting to leave Death Row.
Yes.
Did you ever see anything like that?
I never heard him say he was gonna leave Death Row. I heard him say that he's gonna do a label, Machiavelli Records, Euthanasia Records, one of them, under Death Row. Death Row was gonna be the distributor of his record label. He did mention that. Never heard him say he wanted to leave death row.
But the last reason why a lot of people think that Suge was involved in Tupac's death was because how nonchalant and the lack of emotions he was showing publicly to the fans. It almost seemed like sometimes it was even a joke to him, where he would say that Tupac he's somewhere in Cuba right now chilling, or he'll just be like, Tupac is still alive, he not dead.
Because Tupac not dead. Tupac not dead. If he was dead, they'd be arresting those dudes for murder. You know he's somewhere smoking a Cuban cigar on the island somewhere, you know what I mean?
But we never really seen him how we really felt about Tupac after he died. So a lot of fans took it as he didn't care about Tupac and he had something to do with his death. But these clips I'm about to show you is gonna say otherwise. And in fact, Suge Knight was probably the most hurt more than anybody, knowing that Tupac's little brother died on his watch.
And Suge come walking down the hallway. And he had like he had a little wrap on his head. You can see a real small spot on his head, like a little blood on it. But he's acting weird as hell, you ask me. Acting real weird, and he went, Pac was in there, and he talked about Pac's shot. I remember Suge sitting in his room, like probably crying like a baby. Crying like a baby.
I feel like Suge Knight, he's in the position that he's in his life right now due to all the bad things that he did in his past, and now karma's finally starting to catch up with him. But let's not take away all the accomplishments that he achieved. Was he a bad person? Sure, he probably was, I wouldn't even doubt it. He's probably ruined multiple generations of different families' lives. He's probably preyed on the weak and took advantage of so many people that was so naive. But in that same token, he's also did a lot of good too. Cause just like how I said how he destroyed so many generations, he's also helped so many other generations too. If it wasn't for him, arguably, we probably wouldn't even have a Snoop Dogg, an Eminem, a 50 Cent, and so on. So while a lot of fans like to speculate on how bad the relationship between Tupac and Suge Knight was, ultimately at the end of the day, we're just fans and we don't know the true meaning of their relationship. They could have been as close as brothers, or Tupac, he was another person that Suge screwed over. We will never know. And that rested on September 13, 1996 with Tupac. But these are my thoughts and opinions on this whole video right here. Be sure to leave yours in the comment section down below. And do you think that Suge Knight was involved in Tupac's death, or you just think it's crazy conspiracy theories? Let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. Have a nice day.